In this demonstration, we're going to go over a couple of basic mathematic principles and how to use some tools that we already have to help us solve everyday mathematical problems. So starting with powers, basically a power is a number times itself X amount of times. So 2 times 2 equals 4. So it would look like this, 2x2 equals 4. So this would be 2 equals 8, just like that. So how do we use tools that we already have to come up with this so we don't have to go longhand out every single time and not have to actually memorize everything, right? So we're going to pull something out of my pocket here that almost everybody has, and it's a basic iPhone. Not even a new one, it's a nice little old one. So if we turn this thing sideways, it turns into a scientific calculator. So let's solve powers using our calculator. So we already know that 2 squared equals 4, right? So the calculator people were not kind enough to make it where they had a button and it says x2. We can press the x2 button and it gives us our 4. Or we'll say 2 to the third power, which we said 2 to the third power. What did that equal? 8, right? So if we say 2 to the third power, there's our 8. But what happens if we want to basically have a power greater than 2 or a 3? Well, once again, the calculator people decided to give us a button called XY, right? So we're going to clear. Make sure you hit clear and hit AC. Make sure that we have nothing left in the memory on the computer or on the calculator. And we're going to say, we'll start back over with 2 to the second power, right? Just so we have a known, answer. So we'll say 2, XY button, 2 equals, there's our 4. So, then we can just reconfirm that 2 XY button 3 equals 8. So the difference between using the XY button and the X2 and the X3 button are that we have to make sure that we're pressing the equal sign at the bottom of the screen at the end of our inputs. So we can say, 2 to the 100th power is a very large number now. Or we can say 2 to the 10th power is 1024. So these are the 3 primary buttons that we're going to be using, or that we will use if we have an iPhone and we want to do powers. So that's to the second power, that's to the third power, and this is to basically any power that you want. So what happens if we don't have an iPhone and we need to do powers for some reason at our house? I'm going to show you a basic scientific calculator, but it's like a $10 calculator. You can buy one of these at Walmart or really at the Dollar General for 8 to 10 bucks. So once again, back to powers. Let's look at it here. And we'll say, we already know, we know 2 to the second power equals 4. So for this one, we can say 2, and this one has the x to the second power button. So we can hit that button, and we can hit that, and we see that 2 to the second power equals 4. So if we have anything to the second power, we can just simply use the x squared button. If we have anything larger than that, we can use what's called the caret key. And this one right here has this little chevron right here. That's called the caret key. So we can say 2 caret key 2, and if it's right, it should be a 4. There you go. All right, so there's our 4. So we'll clear that, and let's try 2 to the third power. So we know 2 to the third power equals 8. So 2 caret key 3 equals 8. So there we go. There's our 2 caret key 3 equals 8. And just for uniformity, we'll say 2 to the 100th power equals that really big number again. And then we can say 2 to the 10th power, and we should get 1024. So those are the 2 buttons that we'll use for powers on a normal calculator, which would be x to the second power or our caret key. So our next operation is roots. Once again, using our iPhone as an aid, we're going to solve for a pretty simple equation. So the first equation we're going to look at is 100 to the square root. And we should know, or if we don't know, the square root of 100 is 10. We know this because 10 to the second power equals 100, or 10 times 10 equals 100. So if we still don't know that, we can use our handy dandy calculator, our iPhone this time, to solve for that. So we're going to simply type 100, and we're going to use our square root key here. So I'm going to press square root on that. And the square root key, it's the little, 2 with the square root sign and then the X. And it's going to give us that 10 that we were looking for. So the square root of 100 equals 10. So iPhone and their scientific calculator gave us a couple of different root keys that we can use. The first one's our square root key. The next one is our cubed root key. And then the next one after that is our basically like infinite possibilities root key. So the one with the Y root key and then the X, we can basically make it mean anything that we want. So for this one, the way that we're going to make this work is we're going to actually have to type in our X variable first. So we're going to say 100 and then the root key, and we're just going to do the 2 again, and there's our 10, right? So that basically did the square root of 100 again. So let's make something a little bit more complex. Let's use 625. So 5 to the 4th power equals 625, or 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. So if we go 625 to the 4th power, it should give us 5, right? And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to say 625, because we're going to give us the X variable on this little button here first. So 625, and we're going to hit that button, and then we're going to hit the 4, because here's our 4 sign right here. And it should give us, if we do everything right, a 5. So that's how you use your root keys on your iPhone. So there's your square root, that's your cube root, and that is like the infinite possibility root button. So once again, if we don't have an iPhone and we have one of these, little mini scientific calculators that we buy from Walmart or wherever, this is also capable of doing roots. So this one, if you look really close here, we have little labels in blue, right? So there's a square root, and that's an X to whatever root right there, right? So to access these little blue menus or blue buttons, we actually will press what we call the second key. So the second key will allow us to access the little values in blue. So just like before with the iPhone, let's do 100. So I'm going to press second square root, and you see on the screen where it actually made that, and we're going to press 100, and we should get a 10, right? So once we do that, we're going to press the enter key, and there's our 10, right? So we know that using the second and the square root value key right here is going to give us the correct answer. So let's hop forward again, and let's do this one again, right? So that 625 to the 4th root. So there's another one right here. If you look, that's the X and the root key. So if we have a value other than the square root, we can use that. So we're going to say 4, 625, and that should give us 5. And there's our 5. Right? So if we have something that has a root greater than 2, we're going to use that X root key. And don't forget to press the second button, or you'll get some really crazy numbers. So hopefully that helps you out if you've got one of these little cheapy calculators or an iPhone the next time that you need to do powers or root values of something.